evening and welcome to Confessions. I'm your hostess of light, Jenny Watson. I'm a personal empowerment coach, new moon astrologer, and past life reader. And my mission is to provide a safe space for people to step into their darkness to shine their brightest of lights. And that's what Confessions is all about. Tonight we'll be talking about society's fears surrounding sex and intimacy. Why are we so afraid of opening up? What is so scary about connecting deeply with somebody on another level, on a physical, spiritual, emotional, or even a mental level? Is it really fear of rejection, or is it fear of uncovering the core of who we are? Something to think about. So joining me tonight is a group of goddesses who can help spread some insight on this very topic. We will get deep on our fears, blocks, and judgments surrounding intimate connections, and how and why we owe it to ourselves to break free of our own restrictions. So join me in welcoming an amazing panel. I'm really excited to introduce, first up, Amira Beth, yay! Maria Syria, and Susan Grace. So thank you, ladies, for coming on Confessions tonight.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. So are you ladies ready to get vulnerable and bare your soul?
Let's
Totally.
do it.
The usual.
Do it. Alrighty. So why don't we get right down to it? Why is sex talk, first of all, such a taboo subject? Who wants to go first?
I'll take a stab at it.
Go for it.
I think that's probably a complex answer, but a big part of it has been, I think, a lot of patriarchy has put a lot of shame and guilt into it, especially for women. You know, it's the Madonna whore thing, you know. And really, you're right. Like right now, we're going to talk about sex tonight. Well, why? Why are we saying it like that? It's okay, you know. But I think that's a lot of history behind us that makes us behave that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maria, what do you think?
I would say that it's one of those topics that is, taboo because there's a lot of confusion around it. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot of confusion, because there's instances where people have not felt good, and there's instances where people have felt good, and there's just confusion about that. And anytime there's confusion and insecurity, we don't like to talk about it much. Kind of like the topic of death. It's like we don't really like to go into it because not everybody agrees on what happens in the afterlife, or is there an afterlife? And then it's things of that nature that start to clash because my religion says this, my culture says this, my belief says this. So it's just hard to even start to talk about it. So I think they interlink, right? Because you don't know what the other person looking at you will say.
Absolutely. Amira, how about you?
I think it's such a taboo topic because when we're naked, whether our soul is naked and we're talking intimacy, or when our body is naked and when we're in the act of sex, we're at our very most vulnerable. Like there's nothing there but your open soul, your open heart, or your naked body, and that can be a really scary thing for many of us. To be that open and to be that vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think on top of all of that, the fear of the vulnerability and, opening up and everything, to Susan's point earlier, sex is like seen as so dirty. Like there's this, even though we're modern day and it's not, it's like there's this taboo. It's dirty to talk about and it's shameful and it, and then the words are thrown back and forth for people who are sexually expressive. Like the men are players, but then you've got the words like whole, what is okay, what is not, what do you raise your children to be, and it's just, confusion is a pretty damn good word for all of it. It's like, how can we talk about sex responsibly in a non-shameful, healthy way? What do you think?
Well, I think it comes first from not being ashamed about it ourselves and really to find out what our shadows are around sex and sexuality and intimate conversations. And not just the sexual part of intimate conversations, but the really being able to talk to somebody and speak to somebody authentically and speak to somebody very raw and from your heart space. Like, for me, that's probably harder than just talking about sex in general, like to really go to those really deep, dark places, like those really private places of your heart and soul, and not only bear that to another person, to another human being, but even to begin to teach that to our kids how to do that, we first have to understand how to do it and what it's like for us.
I like what you're saying. I agree 100%. What you're saying is emotion, is being comfortable with emotion, and how do you actually feel that and can express it in words and translate it from the truth of your your essential nature. And because when we do that, we make a big impact on others, and it's hard. And to do that, you have to really come to terms with it yourself and be like, I really like that. Or, oh my God.
Sometimes we can conceptualize the words, like we know the words in our body, but it's like, how do you speak the words that you feel? Like, how do you put words to the emotions and have that come across right? Mm-hmm. Or come across the way you want it intended to come across?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on, again, about the masculine and feminine. We're in an era where the feminine is being brought in just like a tidal wave. And it's for men, too. And so for all of us to get back in touch with the softness and the feelings and the connectedness going on between humans when you're engaged in sex and intimacy, for men, too. It's like just slow down and soften and get okay with having feelings, physical, emotional, psychic feelings. And I think that's going to start getting better and better for everyone.
Absolutely. So, I think a lot of it is, to all your points is, a comfort within ourselves, like being comfortable with who we are, being able to express ourselves without fear. And I think a lot of it is our own self-judgment. I think we place a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas on ourselves. And this helps perpetuate it, on a mass scale. So how do you think that we can find a way to first be emotionally vulnerable with ourselves and allow ourselves to explore the deepest parts of our soul? What has been your experience with that, either with yourself or others?
I've gotten back to a place recently where I've allowed myself to feel like I need love. You don't want to be needy. Why? You are needy. You're a human and you need to be loved just like everybody else does, like the song goes. But, to be able to say, oh, my poor heart needs to be loved, and be okay with that and feel it out and allow that in other people too. I mean, when you get close with someone, get really okay with them needing your love if you get close. Don't be like, ugh, No, come on. You can get close. It's okay.
Why do you think people are so afraid of allowing that kind of vulnerability with another person?
I think it's fear of loss or rejection, like fear of who, if you really show yourselves, your naked soul, like, is that going to be accepted, or is that going to be honored, would be a better word. We're not even worried about being accepted anymore. We want to be honored for it, and we want to be like, it's not even that we don't want to be judged. We just want to be able to speak our truth and let the words flow through us and let the emotions flow through us and have it be like, just have it be looked at with honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's where boundaries come in. I mean, no matter who you are your own protector. And you have to be able to say, I am going to walk in truth. I'm going to. If you don't respect that and you don't honor it, you are cut. You have to. You are your own protector, but you can't not be walking in truth to protect yourself. You know what I mean?
Yep. And sometimes that means we have to put ourselves out there. Like, we just have to take that step or that leap and say what needs to be said or express what needs to be expressed, because when we hold that inside and when we hold back for fear of what the outcome is going to be, like, it's something that just kind of eats us alive, I think.
It's suffering. It's the definition of suffering. You're resisting something about reality. You're resisting that you're vulnerable. You're resisting that they could say no. Yep, they could say no, absolutely. Don't resist that. When you resist like that and hold it in, that's suffering. Pain is one thing. Pain will come and go, and it's going to keep coming back over and over. But it goes away. Suffering is when we hang on to something and go, oh, and won't let go, Yeah.
Right, or when we deny our own truth.
Right.
Just we're putting this mask and we're not being true to who we are. I mean, that's just as painful. Maria, what do you think about all this?
It's all true, and what I think in 3 categories. what I would like to ask for everybody that's listening to us or reading us, if this is transcribed later, is to maybe keep in mind that everything we're saying relates not only inside the bedroom, but everywhere. So when you walk into like a meeting or a negotiation, or when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, or when you're with yourself, I think the fears around intimacy will relate to any time you have a standoff with yourself or in front of others. And I think three things is that we're afraid of. The first one would be fear of harm, like any type of harm, like you ladies are explaining, like even the harm of feeling misunderstood or physical harm or being manipulated or pushed to do something you don't want to do. Harm would be the first thing. Secondly would be like to be insecure, or to, secondly, the fear would be that you're going to be judged or not accepted for who you are. So if I walk in a room, it's right away, what is she wearing? Her hair is down. Why isn't it put up? You know, like there's things like that that you try and modify when you're giving a presentation, no matter where you are, right? To try and not get judged. So first, like fear of harm, then judgment. Then I think the last one, honestly, fear of being loved. Like, how scary is that to actually walk in your room and everyone's going to love you and pour, like, love on you? That's some trippy stuff. We're not used to that, you know? So, like, I think those three categories are pretty much the main ones when it comes to fear of anything. And they can apply inside the bedroom and outside the bedroom. But in the bedroom, you're face-to-face with it now. And you have, like, short-second reactions to the standoff of truth that's in your face, you know? And repercussions that are instant. And does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, that just like triggered inside me something like, you know, the whole idea of like in my past, like a pattern of mine would be like, okay, go for like this certain type of person that I know how I'm going to be hurt in the end, so I don't know how I'm hurt. Like, so it's like, okay, I know exactly how this is going to end, so I'm just going to go this path because that's a comfortable rejection and loss because we know. Damn it. That rather than like, oh my, what it could possibly be and how scary that could be. Like, oh my gosh, love? Really? So yeah, I can relate. That made sense.
To your point about endings, like, okay, so I just ended a relationship. And so now I'm feeling back into all the ways I was very vulnerable and intimate with my partner. And the dynamics between us that have obviously changed because we're no longer in a romantic relationship. And all the things he knows about me and all the things that I know about him. And how we're trying to be friends and both trying to maybe potentially get out there again in the dating world, but yet we still have these ties to each other. We still are so connected and know these things about each other, and that's a different state of vulnerability that I'm not used to. Like, I'm in this whole new category of vulnerability right now that is kind of like fringing on jealousy. Which has really taken me by surprise, you know, that I'm having all these emotions come up at the end of my relationship. You know, and how to move through them as like an enlightened being, and not work in my shadows and be very aware. And when I'm working in that shadow aspect of, you know, my jealousy and my feelings for him that are still kind of lingering. So this kind of ties all into the confession that I was going to do later. But like for me, this is a whole nother level of vulnerability and learning about myself.
Absolutely, it is because you like when you're in the relationship and you get to that point of just intimately connecting and you're on all levels and you feel that safety that would never be betrayed, and then something ends and you wonder, well, if that ends, does the trust end? Does everything end? So it's, you know, I think that's a valid concern, and you know, it kind of brings up another concern that's common around this subject. It's like when you're out there looking to connect in romance, business part, any kind of relationships, like Maria was saying, this applies for everything. What is the difference between guarding your heart and protecting it? And how do you keep a balance? Anybody have any insight on that?
Wow, that's an awesome question.
Somebody asked me, like, can you please ask that question? I'm like, that's an awesome question.
Because that's a really good one. So guarding the heart, you know, I think we all roll through life with a little bit of like protection around our heart chakra. Like, I think that's just how we move life, like just wanting to make sure that we're not going to get hurt. And so, like, the difference or the balance would be, like, it's okay to be on guard. Like, it's okay to be, to really fill into who you want to express and be vulnerable to, because we don't have to be vulnerable to everybody. We don't have to give it all away and give it all up to everybody. It's okay to have a little bit of that guard up, but, you know, the protection might come in when there is an opportunity, like a really good opportunity for us to free ourselves of that and to be very close and intimate with somebody, and we're too afraid not to do it.
Mm-hmm. How do we find that balance? Maria, you have any insight to that?
I need a moment. It's such a loaded question. It's such a loaded question because I don't even understand it in English. Like, do you mean blocking by guarding? Like,
yeah, like somebody who like guards it's on the lock, like I'm not letting anybody in versus, you know, protecting, being like I'm letting people in, but I'm still protecting myself. So it's like a delicate balance. How do you achieve like not guard? I guess the question more is like, how do you not guard it but still protect it? Is probably a better way of phrasing it.
It's interesting that we're even have to ask this question in this world. It's interesting that we have to even ask it. I wonder when I go back to Bali in 1 month, and if, you know, when I'm talking to Eastern philosophy or people that have Eastern thought, if they're just going to look at me like I'm crazy. I mean, what do you mean guarding your heart? What do you mean blocking your heart? But I know what you mean, and I think certain times you need certain things. Like when I was in a traumatic experience, oh yeah, there's going to be blocking, a good amount of blocking for a good year, and I needed that for myself. Protecting.
Yeah, like how can we open our hearts and protect it? Like how can like, you know, explore, go out there and explore, like open our hearts, but yet not be like, I think Mira was the one saying that, like not completely giving all of you.
I have an idea.
Idea time!
I have an idea. This would be new to me. Honestly, the only thing that comes to mind is just don't lie to yourself.
Right. And that, you know what, that comes with trusting yourself too. If you have a good relationship with yourself and your own soul, then you can use your inner, you know, GPS systems to say, this is a safe situation, you can open up, versus...
Yeah, well, it's discernment and it's intuition.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on from here.
This is hard. This is so hard.
No, but I do. I think it comes down to, you know, personally, in that each given situation we have to follow intuition and our instincts. And if our instincts are saying open up, we can't let our ego or our fears block it and say, no, don't do it because I'm afraid of what might come. Kind of just got to go with the flow and do a little bit of surrendering, I think, and kind of find that balance naturally. You know, it's a great question, but I think the answer is within each person, each one of us. We know what our boundaries are, and again, like to Susan's point before, we set our boundaries. You know, if we're not clear on what our boundaries are, what we will and will not accept, and I think that's where, like, a lot of the intimate issues come into play, because you don't know where the trust levels are because you don't trust yourself, or you don't know what's okay. It gets a little, like, confusing and stuff.
I think it's a combination really between the Leo and Scorpio energies. Like the Leo energy fortifies the heart, and it makes it a self-replenishing, self-sustaining unit on its own, and it'll let anybody in. But you have to have the Scorpio energy to be like, I'll accept you. And cut, you know, whenever people get wonky with you, you have to be able to cut them.
This is why I love Susan Grace. Spoken like a true Scorpio.
Are you a Scorpio or who's the Leo? What's going on?
Oh, I'm a double Scorpio with Mercury retrograde in the first, so I'm constantly thinking about this stuff. My midheaven's Leo.
Okay.
Right, so let's enter the Scorpio territory. I mean, we've been really great about talking about intimacy, so let's get into some of the juicier stuff. You know, we all, you know, are sexual beings. It's part of human nature, and, you know, it's always ideal when we have the intimate levels on every plane. And sometimes it's not there, but I think part of our sexuality is understanding who we are, what we desire, and not being afraid to express it. So you need to be safe with a partner. You need to feel that you can express what your desires and passions and fantasies are. So how do you get to that place within yourself? I'm going to throw this to you, Susan, as like someone who works with goddess energy. How do we tap into our inner god and goddess energy to first accept who we are and what our desires are?
Okay, well, I was thinking about this. I think I think the most important thing, the most important place to come from with that is really learning and accepting that the greatest love story of your life is the love that you have with yourself. Your life is your love story. I mean, fall deeply in love with yourself. Deeply. And then it's, if somebody asks, hey, what do you like? You'll be like, I'm going to tell you all about what I like because I love it, I mean, getting really, really in love with your life is so important because once you're there, then people can come and go. When they fall away, they fall away. Screw it. You still have yourself and you love your life, People are going to come and go. It's never permanent. And people act like assholes sometimes. It's just because they're assholes. Let them fall away. Be in love with yourself and it won't matter. It just won't. And then when somebody's really good to you, they're in alignment with that and it just gets even stronger and stronger and stronger. But with that base of being in love with yourself, then other people are just, characters in your love story. It's okay.
I love that. Very cool. I really, really love that. Thank you for that. That was really, really fun. I'm falling in love with myself, yo. So I want to talk to you, Maria, a little bit about what you do. You work with people with their sexual energies and even help clients achieve like freedom and stuff like that. So talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Wow. It's a remix of my life. So I started teaching yoga, and then I went to India, and Tantra yoga came my way. The only way I could express it back in the West was through dance, because it's in my heart, so I created a class called Hip Hop Tantra Yoga. And it sounds really fun, and it is. And I'm here in Sedona now to teach it, and it's really awesome. And what happens at the end of class, I actually write on the whiteboard and give them handouts and curriculums and say, hey, this is your sexual energy. This is how it breaks down in every posture. And this is how it practically applies to your body, your business, and your bedroom lifestyle. So through doing that, it's, I didn't know if all this stuff was going to work in the West. That doesn't only work when you're in the mystery of India or, the ashrams and things like that. And it ended up blowing my mind. So my biggest teachers have become my students, and the case studies, that or the feedback that I get. So what transpired through that was I started teaching yoga online, live streaming to women for 2 years. We have every example happen from healing cysts in your uterus to all of a sudden buying 2 businesses, or knowing exactly how to let your femininity lead in your business so you can actually be more successful and more calm. And it re-evolutionized people's sexual experience. Of course, some people were now feeling like they're ready to date, more confident, more sexy. But what was your question specifically? What I do with them?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to hear a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so that's what happens. People tell me their problems, and I solve them. And I tell them, here, do this every day. Here's your prescription, basically, of Tantra Yoga energy. This is how to move it. This is for you. And then I help guide them through the transformational process of it. So we call it enlightened. I like that I use the word enlightened. I love it. So I call it enlightened dancer, or enlightened executive, or enlightened lover. Those are the private programs. And enlightened dancer isn't dancer like how I would be, but more like when all your shit hits the fan and you have to dance with the universe in a different way. Sometimes we get that coming, I'm working with one lady now that her husband just divorced her, her mom just died, her sister just died, that's shit hit the fan time, and she's feeling good. Everything is much better. So basically this sexual energy, to use it to re-enliven your life, rejuvenate your body, deepen your intimacy, upgrade your relationships, upgrade your work life. It's everything. It's using your energy for you and for your own life's reflection. And I have 5 planets in Scorpio. Hi. It's intense. So Sun, Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I know I need the breakdown, all in the 10th house.
Oh. Yeah, so she might be on her path.
That's what I'm wondering. So, like 5 years ago, I never would have thought that I'd be teaching women, all these ways they can orgasm or what to do with their body. 5 years ago, I didn't know how to use my body in these ways. And now when people ask me, what do I do, and I don't feel like explaining, and I know they wouldn't understand, and I just want to shock them, I say, like, I eat my orgasms for a living, and I just walk away. I'm just like, whatever, dude. I'm not going to get into it. But, yeah, I know life's so amazing what you can do when you just feel so centered and grounded, and it reveals your talents to yourself, I feel.
Awesome, amazing, thank you. And Amira, as a transpersonal spiritual healer, have you worked with your clients to see the healing power of, intimate connections or, becoming one with themselves? What has your experience been?
A big part of my journey has been a lot of what Susan is saying, is reminding women and teaching women to fall in love with themselves, and also to teach women to remember their goddess energy through working with all the elements and the cosmos and the earth, and using their body as an instrument that contains all of those elements and all of those universal energies already, and to express themselves through that, through things like dance and through self-care and through balancing their sacral chakra and balancing the masculine and feminine that are within them already, and just reminding them that they're whole and complete already, that we all come in whole and complete. And it's just our life experience that causes us to think differently. And by working with, goddess energies, and particularly the earth, the moon energy and the energy of the earth, we can reawaken inside of us what is already naturally there.
I love this. I love all you ladies. What a great panel I have. This has been great. So now we are up to confession time. Are you all ready? So I threw out to ladies right before the show, giving them the warning that I wanted them to share a part of their lives or an experience where they had a breakthrough with either an awareness about intimacy or something along those lines, like an awareness or a challenge, something that they broke through. So I'm going to throw it out to the bravest soul who would like to get vulnerable with me. Who's ready to confess?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I talked about a little bit earlier, I'm really discovering like a shadow within me around jealousy and envy that I hadn't realized was there before. And Scorpio is my south node, so I've been working a lot in really bringing a lot of light to what that means and how I can transmute that and how I can bring awareness to it, but still accept that it's there. And move through this relationship transition and not live in that energy, but try to at least rise above it, or be aware when I am, and not let it consume me. So so he and I can both go on to have amazing partners and amazing lives.
Love that. That is great advice for anybody watching to take into consideration. Maria, how about you?
Oh, Lord. So specifically, I was thinking more in the realm of intimacy. I reflected on my story when you first told us right before we went on live, and I remember there was a time where I thought I was like really good in bed, and I was like super sexually active, and I loved it. And that was before Tantra Yoga in India and like the spiritual aspects of what we now know, or I now know as lovemaking. And I remember feeling like I had just lost my virginity when I experienced that side of things. And I started to dub everything else stage fucking, because it wasn't about me feeling my body. It was all about like their pleasure. What can I do, or how can I stay in their mind so they don't go love anybody else, and I can be the best one, and then I can avoid jealousy, right? So things like that. But at this point, actually, what ended up happening was more profound is when I did come back to America and I realized like how things were still the same here and the boys were the same here or the men were the same and they're approaching things the same way. And my challenge became, my breakthrough actually became like owning that sexual power of like the sacredness in the bedroom when I came back and trying to also be kind because I know they don't know what I had just discovered. But it has gotten to the point where I'm just like, stop. Like, stop, don't touch me like you've ever touched anyone before. Like, don't go about me like you've ever gone about anyone before. I need a different space. And it looks like this. Like, I actually need this. So it's huge. I actually did this 2 days ago. Or was it last night? I don't know. I've been up for a while. I was literally like, stop. Like, this is what I need. And before I tried to be more kind and more patient. But now it's like I'm not having it any other way except like I need specific energetic elements in place for me to open up and feel like potent pleasure and potent connection to them, to myself, and to the universe at large.
Wow. That is amazing. I think we've all felt at that point that gosh, before you go, Susan, I'm just going to get into mine because mine's similar but not as deep and profound as that, where I never really got that whole great sexual experience tied to love and everything, even through my marriage. Like, you know, I had the love, but the other stuff wasn't working. But as I, you know, started playing around and, you know, experimenting and everything, I came to a point where there was somebody I was with, and there was something that happened to me that was kind of scary. And he stepped in, and he was very protective. And in that moment, we created a very, very intimate bond because I was at my most vulnerable, feeling scared, not knowing what to do. And he stepped in and protected me. And that night was the best night of sex of my entire life because it wasn't even sex. It was like this pure, whole other dimension. And since then, nothing has ever been the same. Nothing has ever measured up. And I'm kind of leaning towards, you know, you, Maria. It's like, I don't want this just let's get it on thing. No, that was beautiful and that was sacred to me, and that's what it was all about for me because it wasn't this physical act anymore. It became more of, okay, you've learned, you've experienced, and whatever, but now you know that you want connection. It's deeper. It goes back to, yes, it is a gift for me. I mean, I'm not judging anybody else. I'm saying for me, now it's a gift. If you get it from me now, then you've earned it. Because we're connected on many multiple levels. So that was a huge awakening for me. And so I relate to what you're saying. That's a really awesome level, though. So I'm going to aspire to that.
I'm telling you, you knocked his socks off. There's nothing more beautiful than like an emotionally open, well, I'm sure there's other beautiful things, but an emotionally beautiful woman. There's been a lot of men where they're just like, wow, I've never experienced emotion in bed. Like, you know, whoever I was with before would keep their eyes closed, or they wouldn't look at me, or they only want it from the back, or whatever. There was none of that face-to-face or hand-holding, or like, that's the stuff that like stays in my mind. And those are the things that I get thanked for, I guess is the way to say it. But those are the things that give me the most pleasure, and I'm sure those are the things that blow their mind and make it more memorable. And that's where you start this full circle of what we're saying in the beginning, the emotion, like how do you express it, and how can you open it up in the bedroom also. And it's not in the ways we've been taught before. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that was me. I did. I said it. Yay!
Yay!
Susan, how about for you?
I have had breakdown in trust and intimacy and boundaries with myself. I have gotten myself into horribly painful relationships, and I know now, looking back, on purpose, because I felt like the more I suffer, the more I'm worthy of love. And I kept blaming these other people when I was inviting it. You know, they were going to do that no matter what, whether it was with me or somebody else. It wasn't personal. It was me inviting it in where the breakdown in intimacy and trust and boundaries happened. And I've just now popped out of that. I'm just now like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, Susan, why are you doing this? Why? Why are you doing this? And I felt a lot of shame and grief about that. I mean, I had hurt myself and broken my own heart. But I popped out of that too. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. People learn. You don't know till you know.
Yeah,
you know? And then you can come out and say, never again. Never again will I allow this to happen to me. Ever. I am my own protector, and I love myself. I deserve love. I'm inherently worthy. There's no suffering needed. That's a lie. So that's my confession.
That was beautiful.
I'm going to say that this has been one of my favorite shows of all times. I think this has been a beautiful discussion and real and raw, and I hope helpful for anybody watching. So we're at the end of our show already. It went so fast, and it was we could talk about this for hours. But what final message do you have for our viewers out there to get them to tap into their own vulnerability and to share it and honor it? Who wants to go first?
Know what it is you want. Know yourself.
Perfect. Maria?
Goodness.
She needs a minute. Susan?
I would say it's that you are inherently worthy. You're inherently worthy, and you have the power of the goddess within you. It's not outside. It's inside, and you are inherently worthy of love. It is no suffering and pain is ever required for love. If it hurts, it's not love.
Perfect.
Tell me the
Maria?
question one more time.
Well, what is your final message to people
My final message.
about this topic?
Honestly, don't accept less. You know, if things don't feel right, slice them. Use that Scorpio energy, slice them, get them out. Because the next thing will give you a hint of maybe something better. Like, don't accept anything less. And make mistakes, make thousands of mistakes, and also be clever. You know, don't put yourself in crazy situations. But yeah, accept no less. Accept no less being treated the way you want to be treated. Oh, and my final message is actually this beautiful tattoo I got like about a year ago in Bali. So it says taksu right here. I don't know if you can see it. It says taksu in Balinese Sanskrit, which means many things, but it kind of breaks down to spiritual power. And I call it my new landing strip. So if that's kind of my message, like have this area be your landing strip as opposed to the other ones.
I love that. Beautiful. And I say release the fear. There's nothing to be fearful of. Just trust yourself and trust your instincts and trust who you are and honor that. And just go with the flow. Surrender. And just let life take you where it's meant to take you. So thank you, ladies, so much for coming on tonight. Yay!
This was fun.
Thank you, Jenny.
It's wonderful. So I want you to check out these wonderful ladies and, learn more about them, book them for services. They're all awesome. So, Mira, where can they find you?
At amirabeth.com.
Perfect. And Maria, where can they find you?
Well, it's mariasharia.com, and nobody knows how to spell my last name, so just type in yogathug.com.
Oh, I love that.
I'm posting everybody's links in the video below, so you don't have to worry about that. You just click and go. Susan, where can people check you out?
I'm under Susan Grace on Facebook.
Perfect. So these ladies are fascinating. Get to know them. Talk to them. All of them can help you work through for anything from goddess energy to your personal empowerment to your sexual energies. So check them out. I'll put their links in the bottom of the video. I'm Jenny Watson. If anything resonated with you tonight and you want to talk to me, I offer private one-on-one confessions coaching. You can check me out at www.jennifer-watson.me. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tune in next week as I interview the amazing Zen Shoemaker. She is a master teacher healer and sage advisor, and I love her to death, and so will you. So tune in next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Namaste, and embrace your power.